Hello, bookish friends of the internet. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Drew, and this is Drew's Ambitious Reading. And for today's video, I was too lazy to make the video, to make the letterboard again because I've already made it once. But today's video is going to be my September wrap up. I am here to do my monthly wrap up now that I have time to film. And for September, I read 11 books, which is a lot for me because, as you know, August and July was not a great reading month for me, but I'm happy that September was. And yeah, I cannot wait to jump into this video for you guys. So let me show you. These are all the books I read for the month of September. So let's just get through this, and hopefully this won't be as long as my October TBR video was, because that was about 25 minutes long. Anyways, let's start off with my reading stats for the month of September. In September, I had 0 1 stars, 0 2 stars, 2 3 stars, 4 4 stars, 4 5 stars. One of these was an ARC. 8 of these were audiobooks. 0 book of the month picks. One of them was a buddy read. 2 completed series, 2 graphic novels, 0 library books. 3 of these were physical reads for me. 7 of these were new releases for 2022. 4 of these were Owl Crate books, which I was shocked by. And 8 of these were on my TBR from September. And then my page count for this month is 3,931 pages, which, wow, now saying that out loud sounds a lot. My biggest book of the month was, let me grab it, was Forging Silvers into Stars by Bridget Kemmerer. I think this has about, 560 pages, so this was definitely a chunker of a read, but I absolutely loved it and cannot wait to talk about it in a few minutes. My smallest book of the month was, of course, my graphic novel, and that is The Extraordinaries Volume 1. I did read this, and I was a little disappointed by this, but I'll tell you more why in a few minutes. And my favorite, honestly, it was hard to decide. I gave Forging Silvers into Stars 5 stars. I read Flashfire, and I also read Our Violent Ends this month. There's Tabs, so probably this is my favorite out of all the ones that I've read. But yeah, Our Violent Ends is my favorite. So yeah, let's just jump into the actual portion of the wrap-up, since you already saw half of the books. So the first book that I read in the month of September was kind of a letdown. I had a lot of hype surrounding it myself, but also from people I know on BookTube love this book because they got the arc of it from Yalwis. But that is Violet Made of Thorns by Gina Chen. I didn't know too much about this going into it. I did know I got this for my July Owl Crate, I want to say. Either July or June. Can't remember which month exactly. But this is definitely a stunning cover. I was kind of, I don't know the word for it, annoyed, I guess, at one of the characters for a little bit. One of them was a little bit of a whiner. So I don't know. It was kind of interesting learning from like the witch's point of view of a story. And it was an interesting concept, but I honestly was like not a fan of it. Like, I read it just to read it because I own it, but I don't know, I think it was just a me thing at the time, so I might reread this whenever the sequel comes out, because I think there are going to be 2 books in this series, so maybe it's a duology. But overall, I'd give this a 3 out of 5 stars. The next book I read, you guys know I already read and loved, and I don't want my graphic novel to fall. Sorry. The next book I read and loved this month was Forging Silvers into Stars by Bridget Kemmerer. If you saw my friend Clint's live reading sprints for Season-a-thon Academy, you know I read this for Season-a-thon, which, by the way, Season-a-thon was such a good thing for me to do because having those challenges helped me complete these books. But yeah. Also, I just wanted to say Violet Made of Thorns was completed a reading challenge of read a book with colors in the title, and of course violet is a color, obviously. So it completed that challenge for me. And then this one completed, I think it was a read a freebie one from Seasonathon. I don't own the papers anymore because I kind of threw them out. But this was a freebie one, like the one to read whatever you want challenge. So I read a 500-page book in like 2 weeks, and I kept texting Clint the whole time because Clint read this right before I did, and I knew he loved it as much as he did, and I can see why, because there's a male romance in here that I was not expecting. And oh my god, they are so cute together, and I cannot wait for book 2. I can just gush about this. Also, there was a sibling dynamic in here that was really good and was touched on very well. I loved reading all the different characters that we have. This is set in the Cursebreaker world, but I don't think you have to read the Cursebreaker trilogy in order to read this one. I think you can just read it on its own. But yeah, overall, I'm really happy with how I love this one, and I really enjoy the audiobook narrator. There was 2 different ones for our 2 characters, obviously, so I love that for the narrators. But yeah, 500-page read, and cannot wait for book 2. I think it comes out sometimes next year. I'm assuming fall of next year, which kind of sucks because I read this year, obviously. So overall, great start to our fantasy series. Curious to see what's going to happen in book 2. Next is going to be a graphic novel / a book that I read for Bookopoly-a-thon, which I completely failed at for September. And so this prompt was obviously for a graphic novel prompt, and that was Extraordinaries Volume 1 by V.E. Schwab. I read this, and then I realized I have not read Vengeful yet, so I want to pick up Vengeful maybe in November. That way I can wrap it up before the end of the year. Anyways, I read this one this month for graphic novel prompt for the Bookopoly-a-thon, which again I completely failed at. So this was the only book I read from that TBR, which I'm sad because I had amazing books. But I'm also happy I didn't read Priory of the Orange Tree this month because oh my god, that's such a big book. Anyway, the artwork in here is creepy enough to count for a Halloween spooky read. So it's hard to talk about this book because it's kind of like an in-between book for the Villain series by Victoria Schwab. And I was so bummed that I didn't love this one because I loved everything else that she has written so far. So I'm kind of bummed that I didn't love this one. But overall, I will give this a 3 out of 5 stars. I'm curious to see if there will be a second volume to this. And if so, I wonder if Crate would do it, because this is where I got the graphic novel from, was from Crate. So yeah, 3 out of 5 stars. The next book I was supposed to buddy read with my friend Kaylani last month, from Kaylani over at Kaylani Simply Me. Oh my gosh, I cannot talk today. I was supposed to buddy read this in August with her, but I was just in like a really bad reading slump this summer. I talked about that in my October TBR video. But I was supposed to buddy read this with her, and I never got around to it. But I can see why she loved it and why she was asking if I read it yet, because the ending was crazy, and that was Flashfire by TJ Klune. This is the second book in the, ignore the little rip right here, I don't know why there was a rip, but there is. This is the second installment of the Extraordinary series by TJ Klune. Not part of the Villain series, but this is a separate series. I read the first book, Extraordinaries, I want to say for Seasonathon when they did it, and I absolutely loved it. So I don't know why it took me so long to read book 2, but if you don't know, this follows our main character named Nick, who has ADHD, and he's also queer, and it's in the forefront of the story, and it's about superheroes trying to save Nova City. And there's so much more in-depth details about these superheroes and what their powers are. The comedy in here is like top tier. The way that Nick and his dad was arguing, not arguing, but like, you know, having their like banter with each other was so funny. I kept laughing at a lot of the things that his dad was doing and saying. I hate how long these chapters are though, but it also makes me like fly through the book at the same time, no pun intended. But yeah, it's just adorable queer love story that I cannot wait to read. Book 3. Again, I might be saving book 3 for November. My November TBR might have a secret TBR if you can figure what that is. Overall, I really love this. Gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I was gasping. I was laughing. I was not crying in this one, but I hear book 3 makes you want to cry. So I'm nervous for that one. But overall, 5 out of 5 stars. Really, really loved it. Another book that was a 5-star, and obviously you saw all the tabs for it, is Our Violent Ends by Chloe Ngong. This is the second and final book in the These Violent Delights duology. I read These Violent Delights last year for my book club, and I really enjoyed it. I gave it like a 3.5 out of 5 stars. And this one I loved even more, and I was so happy I did because, again, I gave the first one like 3 stars, which is still a good rating for me because that's generally how I rate my books. It's so weird. I didn't tab anything in the beginning until like I got to page 100, and I was like, why didn't I tab in the beginning? Because there was so much stuff that happened in the beginning that I wanted to tab. I think the blue tabs were my favorite quotes and whatnot, so there's a lot of blue, and orange was for like action parts, so there was a lot of action towards the end. I definitely was shocked by the ending of this. I literally had to text one of my friends about this. I think it was Kaylani that I texted. Either Kaylani, I texted you, or I texted Lori. I can't remember who I texted. I texted somebody about this book. But I really enjoyed this. This was a nice way to wrap up the series, and I'm excited to read Foul Lady Fortune, which is on my TBR for October. So I give this one 5 stars, and I just can't wait to read more from this author, and hopefully I'll love Foul Lady Fortune like I did with this one. The next book I read was actually a series I binge read this month, and that is This Poison Heart duology by Kaylin Barron. Let me just pull out book 2s, and why not? It's my channel. I read This Poison Heart and This Wicked Fate, obviously both by Kaylin Barron. This is a wonderful duology to binge read for the fall season. It deals with witches. It has plants, powers, and I wasn't expecting a whole lot going into book 1. I knew there was some like LGBT characters in here. I knew it was about Greek mythology, but I didn't know how much of a like plant person this character is, if that makes sense. But her powers, Bria's powers, was so unique. We follow our main character named Brias, obviously, and I really enjoyed reading from her point of view. She was strong and clever and really funny too, especially with her 2 moms. I don't know why parents are like making me laugh in YA books, but I did a weekend reading vlog for this series on my channel, obviously. So I'll leave a link to that down below. But overall, I really enjoyed it. I would give book 1 a 4-star, and I give this one a 4 stars as well. So they both was an even 4-star read. Book 1 was definitely more enjoyable than book 2 because it took a while for book 2 to get to all the action. And book 2 is also just like so much shorter than book 1, so I was kind of nervous going into it. But overall, I really enjoyed this, and I would definitely recommend this for the fall season because it was just perfect fall reads. The next book I read was The Merciless Ones by Naomi Forna. Finally got around to reading the sequel after owning it for so many months. It was absolutely amazing. I literally went to my mom after finishing this book, and I was like, you're not gonna read this, right? She's like, probably not. So I kind of spoiled the ending for this one for her because the way this ended, it ended on a cliffhanger. I need book 3. I don't even know what the title for book 3 is right now, but I need book 3, and I need to see how this trilogy wraps up. This was so much more dark and brutal than I expected. I don't know why I thought it would be a lighthearted fantasy read. It was a dark, gruesome. There's a lot of heads rolling, quite literally. I don't want to talk too much about this because this is a sequel, but I read the Gildan ones last year because I got it from Owl Crate. Thank you so much, Owl Crate. Y'all are amazing. I absolutely loved the Gildan ones last year. I think it made it on my favorite list. This one will totally be on my favorite list as well. I just can't wait. And if I get to meet Naomi again, if I get to meet her again, I cannot wait to talk to her about this one because I met her at Y'all West this year and absolutely loved it and told her this was my most anticipated read. And I finally read it. And oh my gosh, it was a 5-star read, and I can just gush about the series so much. But yeah, very excited and happy that I got to this one this month. Gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Another book that I gave 5 out of 5 stars. It was just overall a great reading month for me. I actually read my book club pick early, which is shocking for me because all my friends know I'm terrible at reading my book club picks. But I just was reading this for Season-a-thon Academy, so this was their group book, and I also used this for foil on the cover, and that is The Sunbearer Trials by Aiden Thomas. This is his first book in a new, well, not new fantasy, because he's a fantasy author before, but first book in a new fantasy series is what I was going to say. And this was just, oh my god, amazing, wonderful, such a diverse cast of characters that we have here, and I just loved it. I cannot wait for book 2. The way this ended on a cliffhanger, Aiden, I absolutely love this book. I cannot wait to talk about this with everyone else because this is our October pick, but I read it in September obviously. Again, this is another book that I had to go to my mom for and be like, oh my god, this ending. I'm so sad I missed the live chat for Aiden Thomas when they did, when the host of Season-a-thon did a chat with Aiden Thomas. I'm so sad I missed the live show for that. But overall, such a diverse cast of characters. And before anyone asked, this cover came from Rainbow Crate. So thank you, Rainbow Crate. I cannot wait to read the sequel, and oh my god, it was just overall so good. Definitely check out the trigger warnings for this book, but I don't know, I'm just so excited to talk about this with my book club this month, and I give this obviously a 5 out of 5 stars. It was a favorite and definitely will be winning some awards at the end of the year, I think. So cannot wait to read this one, or to read the sequel to this one. And then the next book I read was another graphic novel, and that is The Edge of Balance, Star Wars The High Republic, The Edge of Balance, Volume 2. I read Volume 1, I think in August or July. One of those 2 months I read Volume 1. Absolutely loved it. And then I read this one, absolutely loved this one as well. These are short, easy reads for me. I literally read this in like 2 hours, I think, maybe less than 2 hours, because I was reading this during like a crazy rainstorm we had here in Vegas, and if you know what day that was, it was very crazy. But this was such a perfect book to read during this storm because this had a space, like a space fight. I don't know, my words are not working today. But this artwork is stunning. I just love how simple it is, and it's like so easy for me to read and fly through it. So I cannot wait for Volume 3. I hope they do a third one. I haven't heard anything about Volume 3 yet, so maybe they'll announce it sometime soon. But these are just fun, easy reads, and it definitely got me closer to my reading challenge for Goodreads, so we love that. And this wasn't even on my TBR for September. I just picked it up randomly, like, okay, and then I read it, and I gave it 4 stars, so I cannot wait to see what Book 3 has in store for us. Another sequel I read this month was The Weeping Tide by Amanda Foody. This is the second book in the Wild Lord series by this author. This is her middle grade series that she has out currently. I really love this one. This one wasn't as amazing as book 1 because I think book 1 we were just getting to know the world a bit more. This one we get to dive deeper into the world. No pun intended in this book either. But this audiobook was narrated by Steve West, so I definitely listened to it via audiobook, even though I could have physically read this one because it's a middle grade. So I kind of did physical read and audiobook for this one. So overall, I really enjoyed it. And this was for the math prompt, like the add up the years of your birth year, and you get whatever page number it was. And my page count was 1, so I had to find a book that ended in a 1. And this was like 331 pages, I think. So, and then perfectly like that. And I cannot wait for book 2. Overall, really enjoyed it. Hard to talk about a sequel without spoiling what happens in this book. But yeah, I'm already pre-ordered book 3, which comes out in February. So I don't have that much long to wait for this one, unlike other sequels that I have to wait for. But yeah, there you have it. Those are all the books that I read for the month of September. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you read any of these books, let me know down below. What was your favorite read and least favorite read for the month of September? Let me know down below as well. And I hope you all have a great night or day. And I'll chat with you guys down below in the comments. Bye now.